Do you want to know the biggest reason most people fail in real estate wholesaling? It's that they don't understand how a wholesale real estate contract actually works. What if you lock up a deal, but you can't find a buyer? Are you stuck buying it yourself? Can you get your earnest money deposit back? Or are you just shit out of luck? I'll break down exactly how a wholesale real estate contract works, how to fill it out, and how to use it to protect yourself and get paid even if the deal doesn't go as planned. And I'm not just going to show you, I'm giving you the exact contracts that I use in my business and that thousands of my students have used to wholesale deals profitably all across the country. Here's a quick overview of the two contracts we'll be covering. First is the purchase and sale agreement, also known as the real estate sales contract or residential purchase agreement. This is what you use to put a property under contract with the seller. It gives you legal control of the deal so that the seller cannot sell to anyone else. Second is the assignment contract. This is how you get paid as a wholesaler. It's what transfers your interest in that deal to your cash buyer in exchange for your wholesale fee. This is what allows someone else to buy the deal instead of you so that you don't have to while still getting paid. Master these two documents and you'll be well on your way to start wholesaling real estate with confidence. I'll walk you through the key sections so that you can fill it out with confidence and avoid costly mistakes. I'm going to skip over the fine print and cut right to the essential parts that you need to fill out to put together a real deal with a real seller. If you want a more in-depth line-by-line tutorial on these wholesale contracts, check out my other video, which is over an hour long of me breaking these down. All right, so this is the real estate purchase and sale agreement. So starting at section 1, this is where you're going to put the parties to the agreement. First off, you want to put the seller's name here as well as their mailing address. So sometimes there are multiple sellers on title. We're talking about husband and wife, business partners. Maybe there are multiple heirs to an inheritance that just took over title on the property. So make sure that you put all of the sellers on this contract. Otherwise, your contract could be invalidated if only one of multiple partners has signed the contract. If you're unsure who actually owns the property, you can easily talk to a title company to get that information. As the buyer on the contract, you just simply want to put your name or your LLC or other business entity as the buyer on the contract. A lot of people ask me, do you need an LLC to wholesale real estate? Well, the short answer is no, but it's always a good idea to do real estate deals in a business entity to protect yourself and your assets. And it just looks more professional. Now, underneath the buyer entity line, you'll see that there is a language talking about the successors and or assigns. This is simply language that makes your contract assignable. So this allows you to assign this contract to another buyer, which is pretty important when you're wholesaling this contract. Now, moving on to section 2, this is the subject property information. So this is where you're going to put the property that you're making an offer on, right? The property that you're purchasing. So simply put the address as well as the assessor's parcel number or the APN. So this can be found on the tax assessor website or simply on Redfin. So just make sure that you get this section right because obviously you don't want to have the wrong address in your purchase agreement. Section 3 is included in sale price. This just means that all of the fixtures attached to the property, the appliances, really all permanently attached items are included in the sales price. So personal property is not usually included in a real estate sale. So if you wanted to include anything that is not considered real property, you would go ahead and list that in the lines provided here. So now section 4 is very important. This is your purchase price, right? So you want to go ahead and list your offer price in the first line up here. This is your total purchase price, as well as in the line down here. So these are going to be the same number. And next, you're going to be adding your earnest money deposit. So in 4B is where you're going to list your earnest money deposit. So you might be asking, how much do I need to put as my earnest money deposit? So I recommend putting anywhere from 1% to sometimes 3% of the purchase price. Just keep in mind the stronger offer is going to have a higher earnest money deposit, but it favors you as the buyer, as the investor, to have as little of an EMD as possible. So just keep that in mind. It's up to negotiation. If you're not sure what to put and you have a low relative purchase price, put about $1,000 or go up to 1% of the purchase price. Now, moving on, most of your offers are going to be cash offers, so you're not going to need to concern yourself with the financing portion. So in section 4E right here, you can just simply write cash because this is a cash offer. So you'll just simply put the amount That is the difference between the total purchase price and your earnest money deposit amount. This just says that you're going to be paying the balance at closing to add to your earnest money deposit to get to that full purchase price. So moving on, Section 5 is just stating that the seller is not going to be directly receiving your earnest money deposit. This just states that the earnest money deposit is going to be sent to a title company or the escrow company or even an attorney if they're handling your transaction. Section 6, again, if you're not offering with financing, then just cross this section out or you can leave it blank. Most of our offers as investors, as wholesalers, are cash offers. So you can just cross this out to emphasize that you're not offering with a financing contingency, which strengthens your offer as an investor. So moving on, the next section that's very important to you as a wholesaler or a real estate investor or really any buyer of real estate is the inspection contingency. So Section 8 is really your protection clause. This allows you time to inspect the property for any defects or deficiencies. And really as a wholesaler, this is your time to market the deal to cash buyers, right? You want to schedule walkthrough with your buyers during this time. So you want to list your inspection contingency timeline right here on this first line. So I usually recommend from anywhere from 7 to 14 days as a competitive but also realistic inspection contingency period. So whatever date that your contract is formed and accepted, list a date here that's 7 to 14 days after that. So if you can negotiate a longer inspection contingency, that is going to give you more time to shop the deal around, to inspect the property, and ultimately just get your ducks in a row before you're formally committed to buying the deal. So this is ultimately a point of negotiation. The shorter your inspection contingency, the stronger your offer is going to be because it's more certain for the seller. So the next line here is just simply an additional time period after your inspection period is over so that you can negotiate with the seller if there's anything that needs to be negotiated after the inspection contingency. So give yourself another 5 days, I would say 5 to 7 days at the most. You shouldn't really need more than that to negotiate your findings from your inspection contingency. 8C here is not something that I recommend you using, but if you wanted to officially waive your right to an inspection, you can initial here, which would waive your contingency, which is not something I would recommend doing unless you're certain about buying this property. It's a way to strengthen your offer, but don't do that unless you're absolutely certain that you're going to be buying the property. Now, Section 10 is your closing date. So simply put, whatever date that you want to close on the transaction. So a lot of investors will close in 10, 14, or 30 days. We like to cater our offers to what works for the seller. So go ahead and just put the date that you want to close here. And then lastly, this is the line that you'll be specifying the title and escrow company. So if you have a title company that you use that's more investor friendly, go ahead and put that in your offer contract. Sometimes we work with the seller's title and escrow company as well. So this is where you will put the title company and escrow company. Section 12 is important. There's nothing you need to do here, but we have this in here to make sure that the seller is responsible for delivering a clean, marketable title to you at closing. Otherwise, you can cancel the contract and get your earnest money deposit back. So this acts as if it's a title contingency. So it just means that the title isn't encumbered, there's no liens, there's no claims or creditors at closing. You'll get a free and clear title, which is what you want and what your cash buyer is also going to want. Moving down, Section 14, it's important to read every word in this contract so that you understand what it is, but this is just regarding buyer's default. So we include what's called a liquidated damages clause, which simply limits your financial risk in this entire deal to your earnest money deposit amount. So the seller can't come after you for anything besides just holding on to your earnest money deposit. So it's really there to protect you as a buyer, to protect you as a wholesaler, and just to protect all parties in the transaction. So moving on, Section 17, if you're a licensed real estate agent or you're a licensed broker, and or if you're working with one in the transaction, then you'd simply put their information right here just to specify that there are listing brokers or cooperating brokers, meaning your buyer's broker, working with you on this transaction. A lot of you using this contract won't have real estate agents in the transaction, but this is a spot to acknowledge them and list their license number and contact information as well. Moving on, there are additional spots where you can add additional terms if you want. That's always great to have in contracts, just in case, every deal is unique. So there's a space where you can add additional terms that can come up. Section 27 is license acknowledgement. This is actually if you as the buyer are a licensed realtor or a broker, then you do need to disclose that in all of your offers. So this is the line that allows you to check the box so that you're appropriately disclosing you're a license holder. And some sellers are also licensed realtors or real estate brokers. So you can go ahead and acknowledge that in Section 27. And then Section 29 is simply a deadline to accept. So a pro tip, when you're submitting your offers, it's always a good idea to have a deadline for the seller to accept the offer or the offer is no longer valid. So this actually turns up the heat. It creates pressure so that it's not just an unlimited timeline where the seller could accept it in 3 months. We want the seller to accept it within 24, 48 hours, or else there might be other buyers. There might be other parties that come in and influence them, maybe not to sell or go a different route. So it's always good to have a timeline in your offer. So you do that here in Section 29. Also in Section 25, we do include a right to market, which just allows you as the wholesaler to market this contract, to market the property, and just makes the seller very clear about your ability to market. So once your offer is accepted, you've got your signatures down here. Make sure you get all of the signatures from all sellers involved. You sign as well. If you're in a corporate entity, you just want to make sure you have the appropriate corporate signatures signing on behalf of the corporation as well. So Section 30 is where you'll have everybody sign on the dotted line. Make sure you get all of the seller's signatures, as well as if you're signing on behalf of a corporation, just make sure you have the appropriate titling when you're signing. And then also just get all of the initials from all parties on the bottom of every page. So you'll see at the footer of each page, we have initials. So it's important to get that just to make sure that nothing is slipping through the cracks. Once your offer is accepted and the purchase agreement is signed, it's time to assign the deal to a cash buyer. That's where the assignment contract comes in. So if you've made it this far, I know you're serious about crushing it as a real estate wholesaler. So I want to give you a free copy of these contracts as a thank you for being a part of the Real Estate Skills community. So to get your hands on both of these wholesale real estate contracts, just go ahead and click the link in the description or go to realestateskills.com/contracts. So what is an assignment contract in real estate? It's usually a simple one-page contract that transfers your rights and obligations as a buyer in a purchase agreement to another buyer. Once it's filled out and everyone signs, you've officially assigned the contract. Let me walk through how to actually fill it out. All right, so here we have the assignment addendum. So just keep in mind that you are the assignor as the wholesaler, and the assignee is your cash buyer, right? Your end buyer. So you're just going to go ahead and put your name, obviously, as the assignor, and then your end buyer as the assignee. Very simple. So keep in mind that this date right here is going to be the date that your purchase agreement was formed. So whatever date is on your agreement, whatever it was signed, right? Any dates formalizing the agreement, it needs to match what's on this assignment addendum. Then go ahead and put the seller's name here right next to where it says seller, and then write the property address to follow, right, in this highlighted section. So just make sure that the seller, the date, and the property address match what's on your purchase agreement, as well as, of course, like we said, your buying entity name as the assigner. Those are the things that need to match. Of course, the assignee is a different party, so that's going to be a new party involved in this whole transaction. So moving on, here's where you can list your assignment fee, right? This is how you get paid as a wholesaler. So you can write $15,000, right? Write it out in letters. And then next to it in parentheses, you're going to write that out in numbers, just so you make it ultra clear what your wholesale fee is. So the next space on this contract is where we can charge a non-refundable deposit. So this is optional, but I highly recommend it because at the time of assigning the contract to your buyer, this allows you to have the buyer put their money where their mouth is, especially if you've put in any money into the deal for an earnest money deposit or any fees for surveys or appraisals. This is a time when you can actually recoup that money and maybe even have this fee be in excess of what you've put down. So let's say that you put a $2,000 earnest money deposit into escrow, and this allows you to collect a $5,000 non-refundable deposit from your buyer. Then even if the buyer doesn't perform, you will still make the difference, which is $3,000. So this is how you get paid on a wholesale deal, even if the transaction doesn't go through and your buyer doesn't perform. So the only things that you need to do are add the closing date here. So this just requires the assignee to close on the same close date as in your purchase agreement. So just make sure that those two dates match. And the language in this contract also holds you harmless in case the buyer doesn't close. And it does make the buyer responsible for closing regardless. It also allows you to reassign the contract if the buyer doesn't perform. So let's say they don't close on this date that you have listed here, then you will actually have the right to reassign to a different buyer and they'll lose their deposit. All that you have to do besides that is sign and date, your entity or your name, as well as your end buyer's name. Once the assignment contract is signed, send both contracts to the title company. They'll handle the rest and get you paid according to these contracts. So there you have it. These are the two contracts you need to successfully wholesale real estate deals: the purchase and sale agreement and the assignment contract. Use them to lock up deals, protect your deposit, and get paid without taking on big risk. Make sure to download both for free using the link in the description, or simply go to realestateskills.com/contracts. So what are the next steps? Don't just watch this video, print the contracts, study them, rewatch this video a couple times, and get ready to use them on your next deal. Because new deals come up every single day, and when they do, you need to be prepared to act quickly. Well, that's it for now, guys. Drop a comment below if you have any questions, and don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications for more wholesaling training right here at Real Estate Skills. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.